Okay, folks, we'll just take a few more moments to let everyone jump in. We'll start um, just in a few moments here. Just want to make sure we get enough people in. Hope everyone's having a great Tuesday morning. All right, folks, I am Gary Clark, President CEO, Economic Alliance, Snohomish County, and I am extremely excited to welcome you all to another coffee chat. This is going to be an amazing one, so I am just bubbling with joy and excitement what Katie has put together for us. And so I am not going to take a whole lot of time. Just some housekeeping information for you all. Number one, we want to make sure that we are extremely engaged in the chat and make sure that you ask those questions as Rick is going through his conversation and his presentation to us, and then we'll get to as many questions as we can toward the end and make sure that you announce who you are, what organization you come from. And then after that, guess what? We have some good news. We're going to mention actually two winners today for some gift cards to Rick's website. So you can probably access some information there, find out some goodies and swag. And so we'll announce that toward the end. With that being said, today we have with us Rick Steves. He is a popular public television host, a best-selling guidebook author, and an outspoken activist who encourages Americans to broaden their perspectives through travel. He is the founder and owner of Rick Steves Europe, a travel business with a tour program that brings more than 30,000 people to Europe annually. Rick lives and works in his hometown of Edmonds, Washington, Snohomish County, where his office window outlooks his old junior high school. So Rick, where are you taking us today? Take it away.
All right. Thank you very much, Gary. And yeah, on a normal year, I take 30,000 people to Europe. But this last year, I took 207 people before COVID hit and shut us down. But, you know, we're living through this year and we're doing the best we can and we're filled with hope. I've got sort of travel in my blood. I've spent 100 days a year in Europe ever since I was a kid. Now I've got a staff of 100 people here in Edmonds. And of course, we've got no revenue this last year, but we're keeping it together. We've trimmed our sails and we fully expect to survive this pandemic and throttle up when we can get going. I was thinking about, you know, people talk about how much money you're making as a business and so on, and we're not making any money, but we really see our profit as perspectives shaped and perspectives broadened. Our mission is to inspire Americans to venture beyond Orlando and, you know, to get out there and get to know the world. And even during this time when we can't travel, we're doing that. We're producing content and helping people remember that we're 4% of this planet. And there's 96% out there, and it just makes sense to get to know the neighbors. Yeah, we're travel tourism's in a difficult state right now. We're sort of locked down, but we're very busy investing in our infrastructure and you know, keeping people mindful that we've got our tours and our guidebooks ready to go. A lot of people wonder what tourism's going to be like when we come out of this, and you know, I think tourism is going to be essentially the same over time. It'll take a little while. It'll be incremental. But you know, you got to, in order to have a viable tourist industry like so many businesses, you got to pack the house and you got to pack the tour bus. You got to pack the airplane. You got to pack the hotel. You got to pack the restaurant, just so you can offer a good product at a good price and pay your staff well and still be profitable. That's just simple arithmetic. The big concern for me is that little businesses, creative mom and pop businesses that make travel so much fun, that make me love Edmonds, where I live so much, that they'll have a tough time surviving this. And I'm just hoping and praying that the little guys, the creative entrepreneurial ventures will still be standing when we get out of here. And one of the first things I'm going to do when we can travel again is go over there and have to sweep through Europe and see how the businesses are doing and how many people that I've enthused about in my guidebook listings are actually still in business. Yeah, this last year I've had more publicity, I think, than in a normal year. It's sort of ironic, and everybody wants to talk to the travel guy when he can't travel. So I've been in magazines and broadcasts and interviews in every way that I wouldn't even normally have. And my thinking has been, it's not, oh, poor Rick, he can't travel, or poor so and so, they can't go to Europe. That's quite a privileged thing to do. And this is a time when we really have to stay home and look out for our neighbors and be patient. Patience is critical. Patience is not an American forte. Patience is certainly not a Rick Steves forte, but lately, patience is my middle name. I'm surprisingly patient. I'm not traveling, haven't stepped on an airplane in a year. People are angling to get out there soon. I'm just going to take it easy. And what I've learned is I'm able to employ a traveler's mindset right here at home. I've been workaholic ever since I've been a student. Just travel, work on travel. Rick Steves Europe through the back door. I eat, sleep, and breathe travel. I still love to travel. The other day I was walking home and I saw a snail on my neighbor's fence, and all I could think of was escargot. But I've realized that this COVID pandemic, this lockdown, is, in a way, it's kind of a blessing. It's therapy for somebody who's a workaholic. It's kind of like, I think it's God's way to say there's more to life than increasing its speed. So slow down, take a breath, notice and appreciate other things. The fascinating thing to me in this last year is I've developed a personal skill of employing what I call the traveler's mindset right here at home. An attitude. I mean, what makes a good traveler? A good traveler is somebody who gets out of their comfort zone, who strives to try new things, who's positive and optimistic and excited to make mistakes and learn from them. And and when you travel, you often you're dealing with culture shock. Culture shock's a beautiful thing. It's the growing pains of a broadening perspective. So I've taken this last year and employed my traveler's mindset right here at home. I'm lucky I've got a girlfriend who knows how to cook, and I've decided to put on an apron and learn how to cook. I just bought a set of knives, and I spent a lot of money for these knives. 2 years ago, if you told me how much money I was going to spend on knives in the kitchen, I'd say you were crazy. But I had never cut through a crispy onion in my life until this last year, and it was a thrill. I know my oven now is my friend. I had rarely turned it on. I didn't even know how to use it until COVID hit. So it's an example of somebody who is really focused in one area to try something different and try it with a traveler's enthusiasm of getting out of your comfort zone. I never appreciated dogs. In fact, I don't even want to tell you what I thought about people who walk dogs. I just thought it was a waste of time. I didn't get it. And now my girlfriend's got a couple of great dogs. I love the dogs. I love walking dogs. I love going down to the waterfront here and talking to other dog owners. It's a great thing. I got to know my hummingbirds. I've got beautiful hummingbirds on the deck here. Every sunset for me is like a devotional. There is so much to live for, even if we can't be traveling. But of course, we want to travel, and those of us who are travelers are just so excited about the return of normalcy. I'm so thankful that we're getting our vaccinations now, and to me, we are on a glide path to normalcy. It's just going to be incremental. I think individuals will be traveling shortly. I think people in my business, bus tours, will have to wait a while. And I'm going to be really patient. We're not going to throttle up our tour program until things are good and ready. We're hoping to have tours going in the fall of 2021. It's a little optimistic, but there's a good chance we'll have that. I'm pretty convinced we will have our normal tour program going again in Europe in 2022, early in the year in the spring. But we're not confident enough to take anybody's deposits yet. We're just taking names on wish lists. And we've got 15 or 18,000 people who've put their names on wait list for Rick Steves tours for the coming year when we're ready to open up. We've got our guides ready. We've got our hotels booked. We've got our buses ready to go. And that day will come. I've got a little program that's just going to take us through some slides so that you can get a few images, because I just love while we're locked down here to have the benefit of some images to kind of stoke our travel dreams. And let me just show you a few slides here from my idea of post-COVID travels. And I'm going to really blitz this. I mean, this is just a few shots from lectures I give. And I've got 30 hours of lectures on my website at ricksteves.com. They're totally free. You can go there anytime and get a 1-hour lecture on packing, a 5-hour lecture on art, a 2-hour lecture on cruising the Mediterranean. I've got all these lectures in depth, but I just want to kind of tease you with some ideas. I've been enjoying Europe ever since I was a kid. And that same sort of wanderlust and spirit and excitement survives with me today, 40 years later. And my big work now, I'm over there 100 days a year, is updating my guidebooks as I'm doing here in Switzerland, making my TV shows. It takes 6 days to produce one of our TV shows, and helping with our tour program. As I mentioned, we took 1,500 tours around Europe in 2019, and we hope to do that next year. My tour program started very humbly. It was just me with a minibus and eight fellow travelers. And we're still with that same sort of spirit, taking our groups around Europe. And my favorite thing to do is to have a group of our travelers and take them to my favorite haunts in Europe and give them that context. Something that takes a lot of my energy is just the research. I'm over there checking things out, making mistakes, taking notes. When I get ripped off, I celebrate. They don't know who they just ripped off. I'm going to learn that scam and go to my little desk in my little hotel room and pack those lessons into the laptop. By the way, on our website at ricksteves.com, we have every TV show we've ever made. And that's a lot of shows. We've got over 100 episodes in Europe, so that's 50 hours. And you can just click and watch it. There's no commercials or anything. So you can see ricksteves.com as a resource for lots of free information about travel if you are planning. You'll notice one of my passions is to find little places that have no promotional budgets. Little hill towns that somehow are keeping their head above the flood of the 21st century, places like Civita di Bagnoregio, bits of the Italian Riviera, the Mediterranean coastline, like the Cinque Terre. There's 5 villages like this, nestled in the rocky coast of the Italian Riviera, where you can hike through the vineyards from town to town. It's amazing. Of course, we're going to go to the famous places. And when we go to the famous places, we got to know what's going on. I mean, what does it all mean, and how to do and visit it without all the crowds. You go to the Acropolis. I'm always the last person on the Acropolis. I hear the guards whistle blowing, telling me, "Mister, we're closed. It's time to go," because I'm all alone with the wonders of the Greek Golden Age. We need to know what we're looking at. You're going to see windmills, but do you know what an Archimedes screw is? That's a big sort of a mechanism to lift water through gears from lowland to highland, and you can see that at my feet right there. And why do people wear wooden shoes? There's all sorts of tourist cliches that have real meaning when you want to learn about a different culture and its heritage. We're going to go to famous towns. Of course, this is Salzburg, but we got to complement that with cute little countryside villages and natural wonders. And I like to complement a touristy town like Salzburg with a town like Hallstatt, which is just an hour or two to the south. We're going to go to famous places with all the tourists, like Toledo, the historic, artistic, and spiritual capital of Spain, but it's going to be packed with tourists. But we're going to spend the night when everybody is gone, going back to their resort hotels or the big city nearby like Madrid. The locals have made their money and they come out very relaxed, ready to do their paseo thing. Toledo after dark, that's for me. All over the place, you will find crowds during the day, but spend the night in the cute little towns like Rothenburg an der Tauber, and you'll be rambling those ramparts all alone with just dreams of the Middle Ages. Go to Venice, you can sit in the middle of the day and complain about the crowds, or you can get up early or stay out late, and the city really is all yours. And remember, when you go to Europe, it's not just the touristy stuff. People live there, they work there. We can be inspired by the big cities of Europe, and I make a point to go away from the tourist areas and to find the places where the local people do their work, where they live, where they go for entertainment. And that would be modern sections of the town. This is Paris. It's a part of Paris few people ever venture to, but in every city, I spend a good part of a day wandering around the non-touristy business quarters, and that really is part of the excitement. And then I go wallow in the traditional romantic ideas of the countryside. When we dream of Germany, we dream of the Rhine River and vineyards and ruined castles and half-timbered towns. You probably won't find them to your satisfaction on the Rhine River. You want to go to the little sister of the Rhine. This is the Mosel River, and that's where your Rhine dreams come true. So be aggressive in your planning. Know what you're looking at. You'll find castles that are 800 years old, built when there was 200 independent countries in what is today Germany, the size of Montana. And that's like Burg Eltz here, part of feudalism. And you'll find fanciful castles built in the same generation as the Eiffel Tower that are just a romantic king's dream come true. Just like I used to build tree houses, Mad King Ludwig II of Bavaria would build castles like this on the hilltop above his dad's castle. And you can visit that today. But when you look at it, you got to remember it's Romanticism. It's the late 1800s. His best buddy was Richard Wagner, the opera composer. And find those ruined castles where your dreams can just be let off the leash. And here with a little imagination, you're under attack 1,000 years ago in Portugal. I love rambling the ramparts of ruined castles. Step into the churches, understand the context. Why is it so important? Who's the bushy guy, the guy with the bushy beard and the big key? And what does it say up on top of the dome in Latin, in 6-foot tall letters and with the gold leaf mosaic? You are Peter, and upon this rock I will build my church. Well, this is the capital, the home church, the pinnacle, the Mecca of 1 billion Roman Catholic Christians. And when you go to St. Peter's Basilica, you're ready for a thrill if you approach it with the proper mindset. Look at the ruins of ancient Rome and marvel at the technology they had 2,000 years ago. This is not an aqueduct. This is the most scenic bridge in a 30-mile long aqueduct built by Romans 2,000 years ago to bring water into the city of Nîmes in southern France, so they didn't have to carry it there. On top of that construction is a little square man-made river that flows 30 miles, engineered to lose 1 inch every 100 meters. Wow, that is just so cool. Something very important for us is to really appreciate the fact that you need to get out in the streets and meet the people. It's the people that distinguishes the trip. It's the people that carbonates the experience. And if you're back in the hotel room, you are missing out. Sit on the main square, in the most expensive square in town, pay whatever it costs for a drink, and watch the parade go by. It's the evening passeggiata. Be an extrovert. Ask the guy at the bar next to you in Spain, what is this plate of peppers? And he'll tell you, oh, it's pimiento de Pedron. One of these is very hot, and I'd like you to eat through it, and I want to watch your face when you hit the explosion. Eat an escargot. Get out of your comfort zone. Try new things. When I travel, I'm literally I'm sort of physically a chameleon. I change. I'm not into fancy chocolate. Chocolate is not to die for unless you're in Belgium. And then I go to the finest chocolateria and I get to know the woman whose family's made this chocolate for generations. I learn about it and I try the best. I want to eat and drink what the locals are eating and drinking. When I'm in Italy, I go to the university town and I hang out in the square with the kids. I buy them a spritz. I'm the most popular kid at the table and I'm drinking their drink, not my drink. When I go to England, I have a spot of tea. I've never brewed tea here. It doesn't make any sense to me in this hemisphere. But in England, after a long day of sightseeing, a spot of tea feels really good. When I'm in Prague, I order the best Pilsner in anywhere. I can't even remember drinking wine in Prague, but I can't remember drinking beer in Florence. In Tuscany, I go for a nice red wine. Oh boy, I'm thinking about all my favorite drinks. I never work in Seattle and then come home after a long day and crave a cloudy glass of ouzo. But when I'm in Greece on a Greek island, I don't let a day go by without a cloudy glass of ouzo. So, morph to what people are enjoying there. Your trip will go better. You'll learn more. You'll have a better experience and make more friends. You can enjoy the natural wonders of Europe vividly. She looks rugged, but she just rode a lift up for breakfast, and there's a revolving restaurant on top of that peak, and then you venture out and you can frolic all the way across the Alps. That's really fun to think that you can frolic across the Alps, walking on trails like this. It's amazing to be tight roping on a ridge high in the Alps. On one side, you've got lakes stretching all the way to Germany, and ahead of you, you got the Eiger, Monk, and Jungfrau. There you got it, the most incredible alpine panorama anywhere in Europe. Oh, and ahead of you, you hear the legato tones of an Alp horn announcing that the helicopter-stocked mountain hut is open. It's just around the corner, and the coffee schnapps is on. Oh, that's what keeps me going back to the Swiss Alps. You got to make choices. You got to decide, are you going to take a tour? Or are you going to go on your own? I think there's good reasons to take both. I earn my living by taking people on tours and by writing guidebooks so people can be their own tour guide. A guidebook is a $20 tool for a $3,000 experience. It's penny wise and pound foolish not to use your guidebook smartly or an up-to-date guidebook. She goes a little overboard on her tabbing there, but she's having a good trip because she's equipping herself with good information and expecting herself to travel smart. I think it's so impressive how much great information is available for free all around Europe. This is my favorite town in England, Bath, and every day there's a free tour by a retired teacher or a senior citizen taking visitors around town. It's a beautiful way to get to know that town. One of my favorite splurges is to hire a private guide. This is in Poland. This would be a young university student who's got a car, speaks great English, and for the cost of what people spend for a couple of big bus, floodlit tours in Paris, you get your own private guide for half a day in Poland, and that's a beautiful opportunity. Over the years, I've made friends with lots of guides in Europe, and when you see my TV show, I put my arm around my partner and say, "Here's my friend and fellow tour guide, Christina." And to be honest, I'm just paying her to be my friend. All right. You can do that too. One thing I'm adamant about in my TV production is we only show what you can do. It's all about accessibility. Anything I do on my public television TV show, you can do too, but it sure helps to have a local guide with you. And it also helps to pack light. Can you imagine hiking up to your B&B here and not being able to drive your car there? You'd be glad you got a bag that you can get up that hill. This is one of our groups leaving the restaurant or leaving the hotel, going to the bus, and you'll be spending a lot of time with your gear when you travel. So get serious about packing light. You don't need this much, you need that much. I live out of a 9 by 22 by 14 inch carry on this airplane size bag. I've done that for a third of my adult life. Over 100 days a year for the last 30 years. I live out of that bag. That's the big bag. It's a convertible suitcase rucksack on my back and my little day bag that I'm out and about with during the day. I leave the big bag at the train station, under the bus, on the cruise ship, in the hotel, and I run around with my little bag. It works just great. Transportation empowers us. So much great transportation. These days, airplanes are deregulated. It's cheaper to fly than to take the train or bus in a lot of cases. Look into the discount airlines in Europe. Europe is investing in its infrastructure like we can hardly imagine. And when we go to Europe today, part of the thrill for me is to take advantage of that infrastructure. I love driving on these bridges and through these tunnels and so on. From a guidebook point of view, it's quite frustrating because every year my guidebook's out of date. I get it in town faster than I thought I would because there's new freeways, new bridges. More important than ever to get off the beat and get off the freeway to smell the roses. And there's bullet trains. I mean, I was on a train in France recently where the speedometer didn't even illuminate in the pedestrian car unless it exceeded 300 kilometers an hour, 180 miles an hour, zipping silently, smoothly across the beautiful French countryside. And before you know it, you're in Paris. It's amazing. It is absolutely amazing to use the coordinated and slick public transportation in Europe. Do want to remind you, if you want to get off the beaten path, you want to get to this beautiful scenic bridge in the middle of the Isle of Skye on the west coast of Scotland, you probably want to have your own car. A car gives you better mobility, but you got to choose between the efficiency of a train going really fast from the center of a big city to the center of a city, or to have your own wheel so you can tool about and explore the countryside. Public transportation in the cities, it's amazing. It is amazing. And that's why a lot of my friends in Europe never get around to learning how to drive. They've got government subsidized transportation, and that's how they swing from spot to spot in their towns. Eating is a big part of travel, that is for sure. And what you want to do is connect with people who are passionate about cooking and serving. I nicknamed this woman Antipasta, and she just loves to cook for locals and for travelers. The big deal for me is not to find the biggest sign that says in English, no frozen food, and a pre-printed menu that's the same all year long. I want to get away from the expensive, famous squares. I want to go to a low rent zone. I want to find a restaurant that's packed out with locals with a small handwritten menu in one language. That means it's, if it's in one language, it's catering to the locals, not tourists. If it's handwritten, it flexes with whatever's fresh and seasonal in the market. And it's small because they're just cooking up what they can serve at a good price and still be profitable. That's the good mark. I love the idea that if you go to a good restaurant and you're a good eater, you can look at the menu and you can know where you are and what month it is according to what's on the menu, because good restaurants serve local and they serve seasonal. I just think it's so important. If you want to have fondue in the summer in Switzerland, you're going to be eating it with a bunch of tour groups from Japan and the United States. Swiss people don't have fondue in the summer. The Parisians don't eat French onion soup in the summer. Go with what the locals are eating. Look at the daily specials and you'll do really well. I love eating tapas. I love getting out of my comfort zone. And in so many cases, you can just eat ugly things with toothpicks and wash it down with local wine with new friends you've made in this or that bar. Going for the seafood in Venice makes a lot of sense. Instead of a salad bar, you've got an antipasto bar. in Venice and all over Italy, as a matter of fact. And that's a very nice lunch. One thing inspiring for me is it doesn't matter how old you are. Age only matters if you're a cheese. My tour members tell me it's never too late to have a happy childhood. And I found that so many people are confident. They're equipping themselves with good information. Their grandchildren are saying, "You guys shouldn't be doing this." They go over there, they have the time of their lives, and they come home with money in the bank for next summer's trip. Ever since I was a kid, I've been encouraging people to be an extrovert. It's a mindset when you travel. If you see four guys sitting on a bench, ask them to scoot over. I've been saying this since I was a kid, and it works really great. You want to be part of the scene. That's our goal. With our tour program, as I mentioned, we take a lot of people on our tours. We're excited about our future that way. We have small groups and great guides. And the way we advertise our tours, we attract a wonderful sort of group of people on the bus, positive people, flexible people, people looking for an experience on the road. But my passion is for independent travel. And I'm so committed to this idea that if you can equip yourself with good information, like this couple who just stepped off the cruise ship in Naples, and you rip out the chapter that you're going to be using, you can do very, very well. Your trip's important. You owe it to those you're traveling with, like this family here in Prague, to equip yourself with good information. And then you can take full advantage of all that Europe has to offer. So that's what we're all about at Rick Steves Europe. And Europe is, for me, kind of a fountain of youth. You can have so many fun experiences in Europe, and experiences are trendy these days. The art is better than ever. And I love the way that art is just displayed with pride, and it's displayed in a very instructive and user-friendly way. You'll meet the artisans doing their thing. The wine is better than ever. The traditions are alive and well. And the challenge for all of us is to find those offbeat nooks and those backdoor crannies. All right, so that's just kind of my blitz tour of the joys that can await us when we can get traveling again. I do want to remind you that it's going to be incremental when we can travel. But I just got my shot, and when that needle went into my shoulder, all my little endorphins were dancing and doing flip-flops, and it wasn't a selfish kind of joy. It was a societal joy. I felt like, yes, I'm helping my entire society now move beyond this pandemic as we go for herd immunity. And I'm just so thankful for the science and the capable government and the esprit de corps that we are going to have in our society, because we got a ship that wants to sail, and we can't sail really until everybody's on board. You know, travel is important. That's why I work so hard. I think it's just travel is really an important activity. The less you travel, the more fearful you are. The United States has never been more fearful. I remember when people said bon voyage. They don't say that anymore. They say have a safe trip. Well, fear is for people who don't get out very much. And as I've always learned, when we travel, we broaden. We open up to the world, and we take home the most beautiful, beautiful souvenir. In fact, I've got, I want to make sure I've got time for questions, but I've just got one little roll. It's a 3-minute clip from a show that I just produced during COVID that I'd like to share with you before we get into the Q&A. And I'm going to take you now to my website, ricksteves.com. As I mentioned, you can see all of our TV shows there for free. Just click every special we've ever made and so on. You can hear 500 hours of our radio archives there. In the tour page, normally we're selling tours. Now we have a guides marketplace where we're connecting our travelers who can't travel with our guides who can't lead bus tours. And we've got what's called the guides marketplace, where you can click there and have all sorts of mostly free virtual experiences with our guides, cookings, classes, language classes, virtual tours, and so on. Every Monday night, I gather 5,000 people in my living room here virtually, and we go traveling together, and we eat and we drink and we have a party. That's free, and we're just having so much fun with that. In fact, we sell out 2 performances, sell out as far as a free performance can be sold out, but we sell out 2 groups every Monday night, and we're going to be doing that going forward. But this is a corner called Classroom Europe, and I'm going to click on that. And Classroom Europe is something I've designed as a gift for teachers. I think teachers are heroes, and so are homeschooling parents. And here I've got over 500 clips taken from all of the TV shows we've produced over the years in an archive that you can mix and match and create your own playlists and put together your own shows. You can search it by themes, by keywords, or just by words in the script. And what I want to do is do why we travel. And there I get a bunch of clips. And what I want to show you is the last 3 minutes of a show that you could watch in your entirety if you like, anytime. Just go into my website or stay tuned to your public television station. But this is how travel is important to connect. And I think the beautiful lesson from COVID and this pandemic is we're all in this together. We've got to connect. We've got to get to know our neighbors. And there's no more win-lose. It's win-win. And we're going to win-win when we connect. So here is just a little way to wrap this up. I couldn't go to Europe to do the on-cameras. They were shot right on the University of Washington campus with the background out of focus because we didn't want people to be distracted by all of those masks, because we think in a little while we won't have to wear those anymore. Here we go.
By traveling thoughtfully, we connect. Even for those of us who can only travel as a state of mind, travel can result in a deeper connection. Travel connects us face to face with reality. It's not virtual. It's not through a viewfinder. Travel is candid, honest, being in the moment.
Okay. Thank you.
In a world hungry for authenticity, we yearn for connection.
But now she's quite big. She's like you, about like that, yeah.
Travelers connect with different cultures, different people. On the road, strangers are just friends we've yet to meet. Travel frees us from routine. It creates room for serendipity.
Okay, so now I'm ready to be a shepherd.
Serendipity leads to connections. Travel forces us to bend and to flex. It makes us more tolerant and inspires us to celebrate diversity. The lessons I've gained from exploring Europe, the land of my heritage, are universal. For me, these lessons are affirmed and then stretched when traveling further afield. As a child ventures beyond his backyard, I ventured beyond Europe. Year after year, I pushed my boundaries. The world opened wide with a montage of wonders and lessons learned. Traveling beyond my comfort zone, culture shock became constructive. The growing pains of a broadening perspective, my ethnocentrism challenged. The celebration of difference and oneness at the same time. The recognition that love is love in their home just as in mine.
I think this is a beautiful, beautiful welcome here.
Through travel, we see a world filled with joy, with compassion, and with good people. We learn the more we reach out, the more we receive. We learn that we all share the same world.
Nice.
And we all share the same window of time. Travelers seek bridges rather than walls. Every wall has two sides and two narratives. For one to be truly understood, both must be heard. Traveling, we realize the challenges of our future will be blind to borders and best overcome not by conflict and walls, but by community and bridges. There's so much fear these days. The flip side of fear? It's understanding. And we gain understanding when we travel.
What is this? The celebration of Obama's...
Travel is more than a holiday. It gives us new experiences, acts as our greatest teacher, makes our lives more meaningful, and connects us with a global family. We can't all travel physically, but anyone can live with a traveler's mindset. It's a choice. Travel makes us more comfortable with the world, our hearts bigger, and our lives richer. And it makes us happier. And that is why we travel.
And that is why I travel. So, well, thank you for letting me blitz you through a lot of ideas about travel, especially travel during COVID. And now I'm looking forward to some questions and
Awesome.
chatting with Gary.
Yeah. Thank you, Rick. I'm just so excited. Just seeing all of humanity there in your presentation just brought me a lot of joy. First question came from Pam, and it said, do you think we'll need vaccine passports going forward? So
Yeah, people always ask that. And for me, I would think, well, of course we will. And why not? Uh, Remember, there has to be standards so people can travel between countries. So every country has the responsibility not to bring disease into another country. When we deal with vaccine requirements between countries, remember, it's not to protect us. It's to protect a country's own people from people that want to come in there. When I was a young traveler, I always had my passport, and in it, I always had a yellow international certificate of vaccination. That was just standard policy. To go to Germany, I needed this. At the border, they wanted to see it. I just got this yellow international certificate of vaccination a couple of years ago when I went to Ethiopia, because I had to get they wanted to make sure I had yellow fever or smallpox, or I don't know what. But yeah, we'll have some way to prove that we have a vaccine, whether it's a modern chip in our passport or whether it's a piece of paper. I don't know. But the main thing is that we get our shots. If we don't get our shots, we don't get to travel. That's kind of the way it's going to go.
Thanks, Rick. Next question came from Dom, and I'm going to shorten it a little bit. Based on the changes and success or failure rate of the vaccinations happening in Europe and abroad, his question was, will you have some type of guide for safely experiencing Europe as we recover?
I'm not going to be a maverick in any way. It's going to be very clear when I take a group to Europe that it's safe to travel there. And I trust each country's health department. And if they say, statistically, if they've got their shots and they've got herd immunity and they've got it under control, and if I've got my shots and the airline is letting people on the plane and there's enough people to make the planes go, I'm not going to question it. I mean, there's a lot of people that are so contrarian about this, and I just don't quite get it. It's just a matter of embracing science and all working together. And remember that it's, as I said, when I got my shot, I felt all of society yelping for joy, not just me. So yeah, the reality, the sad reality is we live in a very divided world with privileged countries, just like privileged people, and unprivileged countries, just like unprivileged people. And the United States and Europe will be well vaccinated and traveling long before the poor parts of the world will be vaccinated and traveling. And I'm not losing sleep over it. I just say that's a reality. Let's just get those shots going. Let's get the rich people vaccinated, and then let's be generous and help the poor people out too. I mean, that's a pragmatic. I mean, I'd rather everybody was getting their shots, but there's just a greediness on this planet. But I think even if you're motivated only by greed, if we get it fixed and it's not fixed south of the border, it's not fixed. It can blow back in. So we need to look at it as a global challenge, and it's certainly something we can do.
Awesome. Thank you for that. I have one question that might be a little humorous. It asks whether or not Bernie Sanders is a tour guide. And then I'm going to pull up here. Lori from Snohomish PUD asks, what is your favorite country, Europe or beyond? So,
is Bernie Sanders a tour guide? I don't think Bernie Sanders would be the greatest tour guide because you don't relax around him. And he really wants you to be a certain way. I've got politics just like Bernie, but I've learned you can't hit people on the head with it. You've got to give them an experience and let them make their own decision about it. And I think both of us care. And the question is, as a tour guide, what's the appropriate way to have a transformational travel? Gary, that's the challenge for me. Is I want people to be transformed. When people go home, I want them to take the best souvenir, and that's a broader perspective. And we work long and hard on how to do that in our travels. Europe is our beat. I do Europe in part. It's my heritage. I've got relatives there. I've got a European history degree. It's what I know. It's where I'm well connected. And after 40 years of going there, I got friends and partners everywhere. And it's a huge market. If I want to sell guidebooks, my Paris book sells 50,000 copies. If I wrote a guidebook to Burma, it would sell 500 copies. If I wrote a guidebook to Honduras, it would sell 1,000 copies. Well, I want to sell 50,000 copies, and that means write a good guidebook to Paris. So that's a big part of it. But for me, Europe is the wading pool for world exploration. It's a beautiful swim, but let's start in the shallow end and see how we like it. And my favorite country is India. And
Ah,
I love India mainly because it gives me the most culture shock. It wallops my ethnocentricity. It rearranges my cultural furniture. It reminds me I am not the norm. All of us who are watching right now, we probably think it's normal to sit on the toilet when we go to the bathroom, but for half of humanity, no, that's something strange. When you do yoga, you try that squat pose, and it's not easy for me because I've always had something to support me when I squat. But most people sit on their haunches, no problem at all. I've been to communities in Indonesia where they're too poor for everybody to have a TV, but there's one TV in the town and it's on a post, and everybody is squatting around it, and they're just sitting on their haunches comfortably. I tried that and I couldn't make it to the first commercial. So we are not the norm, and that's a beautiful thing when we travel, and that's why I love traveling in India. So I guess somebody asked me what's my favorite country, I'd say India.
that's awesome. That's awesome. I like that reaction and response. I saw a few folks laughing out loud on their screens. So one question from Miriam Robin was, how should a solo female traveler approach joining one of your tour groups?
Well, a solo film, as far as my tour groups go, when you take a tour, um, you got to remember the tour is designed, it's just arithmetic. It costs more for singles because a major expense is a hotel room. And one person in a hotel room cost $150, and two people cost that plus an extra breakfast, basically. So if you want to go as a single in a single hotel room, you're going to pay a single supplement, and it's going to seem mean-spirited, but it's not. The tour company doesn't profit on that. You're just going in a very inefficient economic way to go with a single room. My tour company is a little bit innovative in that we do not charge extra for singles who are willing to share another room with another stranger of the same sex. So a lot of single women sign up on our tours, and they just pair up with other single women and they share a room. And if it's just, we let them, it's just kind of potluck. If there's 6 women, we have, let's say there's 7 women single on our tour, we will have 4 rooms for them. And one of them gets a single just because it's an odd number, but they share their rooms and they're willing to do that. If they don't want to share the room, they better find a partner, or they better take out a loan so they can pay for the expense of having a single room. But the cool thing about traveling with a group is you're certainly not single all day long. You have all sorts of friends. And I used to do, for years, I did 8 people on a minibus, and it had advantages, but it was constricted. And I really like 25 people on a bus. Everybody gets 2 seats. It's a 50-seat bus on a Rick Steves tour. We're already social distancing that way. And there's enough diversity in the group where if you just want to be on your own, you're fine. And if you just want to partner and party with people, that's fine too. And it's just, there's something for everybody.
I guess this next question kind of ties into that comment. As far as small accommodations, how do you find the best ones for your events and tours?
Oh, well, I spend 100 days a year in Europe, most of that time researching. So I'm out there just looking for places. We get tips. We hear, mostly we hear tips and we write them down, and then we chase them down ourselves. Or I find a lot of times I choose a neighborhood, and then I'll just scour that neighborhood and I'll find the accommodations that I like there. But the accommodations I like are small. They're one-offs. They're not chains. They're family run. They're characteristic. They're not over the top in comfort. They're safe and they're quiet. And I like family run places because you'll have the same people there year after year. If something's not family run in the hotel industry, the staff is usually farmed out to people that don't really care. They don't really know what's going on, and they're going to be there this year, but they won't be there next year. And I don't think the traveler gets the best experience. So I really like that coziness of a family run guest house. And it's just a lot of hard work when you make a guidebook to fill up that hotel section with all of the hotels and the alternatives to hotels, so people can have the right accommodations for whatever level of comfort they need and whatever price range they can afford. But I don't want to stay in a big fancy hotel. I would much rather stay in a if I've got a lot of money or want to spend a lot of money, there's wonderful little hotels, boutique little hotels. And, I've traveled long enough now where when I do my research, when I'm in Rome, when I'm in Florence, when I'm in Dublin, when I'm in Copenhagen, and when I'm in Bergen or Tallinn or Porto or Granada, I know each one of those. I was just thinking, I know exactly where I want to stay. and they're all small hotels, and I know the people that run them because they've been running them for years and years.
Excellent, excellent. Leslie asks, where else do you travel besides Europe and the Middle East? And she thanks you for your series on this as well. So.
Oh, well, thank you, Leslie. I love, my favorite countries would be Japan, Indonesia, Southeast Asia, South India, Latin America. My son lives in Colombia. We're just down there to see him. But I just love my work. If somebody said you can have an all expenses paid trip to Fiji with a wonderful, luxurious beachside resort hotel in 10 days, I'd say, oh, that sounds good. But I'll take that 10 days and go to Portugal and work on my guidebook. I mean, that's just the weird sort of person I am. I love my work. I care about the fact that 10,000 people are going to be using that book next year, and I want to use every minute I've got to make sure the information's correct. So Europe is where I go.
All right. Nathan Kelly has a question from Pure Clean, kind of asking, what are some tips for us to be gracious travelers who are respectful of the locals in the area we're traveling? Is there a way to take advantage of places without taking advantage of them, if you know what I mean?
Sure. I like to travel in a way where I'm consuming in a way where the money stays in that community. If you go to if you stay at a golf course owned by a former American president in a foreign country, that money's not going to stay in that country. It's going to come back to our country. I would rather stay in a characteristic place that is locally owned. Very, very important. I would say when you travel, you don't want to compare things always back to the way we do it in the United States. I see a lot of that, oh, we've got it better, or I like ours better, or whatever. It's not a contest. It's a chance for us to get out of our comfort zone and let them show off. I just love, it's like show and tell on Monday morning when I was in third grade. The kids would come back and everybody would show something off. And it was cultural show and tell when I travel. So I'm not there to compete with who's got the best stuff. I'm there to just celebrate what they do in Spain, or celebrate what they do in Sicily. And I want to give it a try. And I want to be curious. I don't want to be demanding. A lot of Americans, I can't get the bill. The service is so slow here. Well, they don't know how to ask for the bill in the local language. And they don't realize that slow service is the respectful, polite default, because they're not trying to turn the table. In America, they're trying to turn the table. Here, eat this, eat that. Here's the bill. All right, what's next? In Europe, you got the table all night, and they're not going to bring you the bill unless you ask for it. If you knew how to say, I'm going to a concert and I need to eat and be gone in 1 hour, if you knew how to say that, they would accommodate you. But a lot of Americans are demanding without much sensitivity to the culture. And that's something that I think we need to be mindful of. Everybody's got their own temple. Everybody's got their own dreams. And when I'm, I was raised by my parents, they said, this is the work ethic. Well, that's not the work ethic. It is a work ethic. And my Norwegian relatives have a different work ethic. They don't have the American work ethic. My friends in Spain and in Greece certainly don't have the American work ethic. Is it right or wrong? No. They choose to work less, have more time with their family, and have less material stuff. That's a choice that they make in a lot of very wealthy countries. And they can say they live better than we do on a different standard. We live in a country where well-being is generally preceded by a hyphen and the word material. That's very American, material well-being. We vote for the person who makes us better off than we were 4 years ago. It's an American thing, which is fine. I'm glad I live in America. I'm a great capitalist. I work hard and I've got all sorts of comforts, but I sure love hanging out with people who find different truths to be self-evident and God-given. That just stimulates me to no end.
Oh, that's amazing. I love that perspective. Olivia Mossman says, Rick Steves' Europe has kept me sane during a year of working from home. And she was inspired and snagged some cheap and flexible tickets to Paris in October. And so she's asking, what's your must-see, do, eat thing there?
Oh boy, I'd love to go to Paris. And I'm pretty confident that by October, we'll be free to go there. Individuals will be able to travel as long as we're going to a place that is, getting a grip on the pandemic and that we've got our shots. In Paris, I would use I've got a free app called Rick Steves Audio Europe, and it's got 50 or 60 guided tours. You just go to the spot to start, you put me in your ear, and I walk with you, and I describe for you everything I know and love about this or that neighborhood or this museum or whatever. And some of my favorite walking tours are in Paris. It's absolutely free. You just download the Audio Europe app. Another thing I would do is I would go to my website, and remember, we've got 3 shows on Paris. That's an hour and a half. And if you wonder what I would do in Paris, it's all right there, and you could watch that. I just love thinking of Paris as a collection of neighborhoods. And I like to stay, as those of you who know my program, I love to stay in an area called, which is near the Eiffel Tower. It's called Rue Claire, and it's a pedestrian-only street, which is a market street. And they've got these market streets. And in Edmonds, we have a market on Saturday mornings in the summer. Well, in Rue Claire, they got a market every day, rain or shine. And it's just, people intentionally have small refrigerators tucked under their sink, so they have to go to the market every morning. It's their quality of life. Americans have a freezer in the garage, so they only have to go shopping a couple times a month and get the big discount for the big box store. That's our quality of life. It's not right or wrong, but remember, when you go to Paris, you've got that focus on neighborhood. You've got that focus on family. You've got that focus on quality. And you go to the market in the morning to spend too much for your loaf of bread in order to talk with the person who baked it. I just love that. You eat with what is fresh. You don't insist on strawberries. You eat strawberries when they're in season. And you get excited when the mushrooms are in season. And then you accommodate it. The best way to control nature is to obey it. This is a very European approach, and it just really aggravates the collective American psyche because it goes against our profit maximization drive. But they've got a different way to measure profit, and I like that when I become a temporary local in a great city like Paris. It's so fun to me as a tour guide how Americans have a tough time with French culture. One of my guides was with me, as I love to have the help of our guides when I'm making a TV show, Arnaud, and Arnaud was helping us make our TV show. And when the weather's good and the light's good, we have a sandwich in the taxi for lunch, and we're going from one spot to the next because we're getting it done. And Arnaud just can't believe this. This is so barbaric. You're having lunch in a taxi, and it's just so, and we have to stop and have a nice break and an hour-long lunch, and then we get back in it again. And that's just a different sensibility. When I'm on the street in Paris and strangers, perfect strangers, interrupt what I'm doing, and they come up and they go, "Hey, Rick, I love your show." I love that. It's just, I think it's so cool. But Arnaud just can't be oh my goodness. First of all, there was no discretion. I mean, they've not been introduced. They're calling you by your first name. And I was invisible. They didn't even talk to me. They walked right by me and they talked to you. So an American might think, oh, that Arnaud is so stuck up and so rude. But the irony is, he was appalled at the rudeness he perceived between me and these strangers on the street. So it's a fun little dance. And again, it's not right or wrong. It's just a celebration of different cultures with different priorities and different styles and different tempos and different sensibilities. And that's the joy of travel.
That is amazing. So I want to make sure that we give you a chance to do your closing as well. I'm going to ask one final question from Matt Smith at EASC. That's our group. Matt asks if you could describe to us how you started your business.
I started my business right here in Edmonds. I'm looking at my junior high school right now. My dad imported pianos, and he had a piano. We sold great German pianos right here on 4th North in Edmonds. And I had a piano studio there. I would teach kids how to play the piano. And kids wouldn't practice in the summer, so I'd go to Europe and travel around. I'll see in September. I started learning from my travel experiences, and I was becoming a very good traveler back when I was in college. And what did I do? I had a recital hall here in Edmonds where the kids would play their Christmas and their Easter concerts and so on. And I started using the recital hall to give talks about travel. And I found that I was having more action and more business as a travel teacher than a piano teacher even. And in 1980, I wrote my first book, Europe Through the Back Door. And I remember giving a piano recital. I had 50 students here. and the parents were sitting on boxes of Europe Through the Back Door to watch their kids play the piano. And I was all distracted thinking about travel things when I should have been thinking about piano things. And I decided I really should choose one or the other. I'm going to be a piano teacher or a travel teacher. I decided to be a travel teacher. So I said goodbye to my students, and I had used that piano studio I had for my travel teaching, writing books. And I've been doing the same thing now ever since 1980, 40 years. Same mission, same stuff, same lectures. Now I've got 100 people that work for me. I've got technology beyond my wildest dreams to amplify my teaching. I've got a great publisher. I've got 50 guidebooks out. I think 25 of the top 30 books when COVID hit that were American books for Europe had Rick Steves on the cover. Our tour program was booming. A year ago, I had 100 of my European guides right here in my living room. We were euphoric, ready to go and really knock it out of the park in 2020. And then I'd have to explain to them what knock it out of the park means, because Europeans don't know that phrase. And we were just having a great time. And then this COVID hit. And now we're just being patient, and we're gonna pick up where we left off. But we're having a lot of fun. I mean, my business is just to teach people how to travel. As I mentioned, my mission is to inspire Americans to travel beyond Orlando. And I've written a couple of books I'd like to share with you, because I wrote these books last year before the COVID time, and they're perfect books for COVID. One is called For the Love of Europe, and that's something I've long wanted to write. It's a 400-page collection of my 100 favorite essays, my 100 favorite experiences to write about in Europe, my favorite places, people, and stories. And that's been a book that's been selling well even when people can't travel. And then another book I've long wanted to write is Europe's Top 100 Masterpieces. I just love art, and I love to have a coffee table book with beautiful full color photographs, and then artfully written, really tight essays, taking you deep into each of these beautiful pieces of art. And I'm just so excited and proud of this book. And that just helps a lot of people while we're at home be able to dream about travel and travel vicariously. As I mentioned, 2019 was our best year ever on our tour program. And 2020, we had all sorts of hopes and aspirations, but never hardly got off the ground. So we got the 2021 version of this on our website at ricksteves.com. It's a PDF, and it explains what we're going to do when we get the go ahead. But you know, first things first, we got to take care of our neighbors. We got to get vaccinated. And it's, again, this ship can't depart until we're all on board. So we've got some business to do right here. And I think, I hope that our society can, when we look back on it, be proud of the way that we handled this crisis, and that we can even learn from it and come out of it and be better connected with our world, have a better appreciation of the importance of good governance, of the fragility of our environment, and the fact that, you know, if we're okay, but people across the street or south of the border are not okay, we're really not okay.
Wow, this has been amazing. And I hope if you have any additional remarks before I move on, I just wanted to thank you for this amazing presentation. It's given me goosebumps seeing some of those images. And I don't know about the rest of you, but I am eager to jump on the Rick Steves Europe tour as soon as we can.
Well, you know, Gary, it's been a delight. I don't know if you can tell, but I just, like, I'm sure a lot of you, it's just, we're ready to get back to normal. I'm having fun just talking about this.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Rick. You've been amazing. And there are tons of comments on the chat to thank you for different things. So I'm going to go ahead and if we can, Katie, I think this is the opportunity to raise our coffee mugs in the air if we have them, coffee or what have you. Yep. And we just want to salute Rick Steves with a drink and a salute.
Wow. Hey, thank you very much. And happy travels to all of you, even if we're just staying home for a little while longer.
All right. So now is the time to announce two winners for the ricksteveseurope.com gift card giveaway. So first and foremost, we want to thank Rick Steves again for this amazing presentation. So please support his business and continue to push those things forward. What I see here is Susan Wong as our $100 gift card winner. Susan, Katie will probably reach out to you with the information needed to access ricksteve.com and find something awesome there. Number 2, this is for $50. The prize goes to Ken Kaufman. Ken Kaufman, again, we thank you for being on the chat and enjoying the coffee with us and Rick Steves' presentation. $50 will be provided to you to go to ricksteves.com and have a good time. So last comments for you all really quickly. We want to make sure that you engage us next week. We actually have another coffee chat. It's going to happen March 30th at 8:30 a.m. And we'll have experts from Washington State and the U.S. Department of Commerce to provide export resources. So thank you, Rick Steves. Thank you, everyone else who's joined us today. It's been amazing. Enjoy your Tuesday and get out there and travel. Thank you all. Thanks so much, Rick.
That was fun.
Yeah, that was awesome.
Good
I look forward to meeting you.
Yeah, me too. I'm just browsing through all these nice comments. It's great.
Katie, how did that go? Or is she still there? Yeah, I think we'll upload this for sure. Rick, I think she's recorded it, and man, those are some great comments.
Good. Hey, well, that was nice. I think it worked well with the slides, with the PowerPoint, and also with the little screening video clip there.
It looks like we have one person who's trying to catch you here, Rick. Matt is, I don't know if he's going to be able to unmute. Let's see here. Katie may have departed already. Let's see, Matt Smith. Asked to unmute. See if it works.
Great, thanks.
There you go.
Rick, how are you? I'm a Woodway High School 71 guy, so I've been watching you for a long time. I'm
nice.
Curious, at the end of your TV shows, the credit always is to OPB.
Right.
So why not University of Washington, or what was the Oregon connection?
Oh, back when I started, it was 1990. We tried to get KCTS to pick us up, but they didn't want to sponsor our show. When you make a show on public television, it's nice to have they call it a presenting station.
Yeah.
And KCTS was our first choice. They had a little dysfunction going on and they didn't want to support us. So I thought, well, that's too bad. We'll see if Portland wants to, and Portland wanted to. So I've been with them for 30 years.
Wow.
So the jingle happens, and that was, I guess you could say, it was KCTS's loss. I work with KCTS pretty closely over the years. There's no animosity there. It's just I'm loyal to Portland because they helped me get off the ground back when I was a kid.
Awesome. Well, thank you again, Rick. We appreciate you even staying on briefly there. Still comments popping up, so we definitely have to do this again.
Well, sounds like you got a great organization. I was glad to be with you this morning, and a good excuse to say hi to everybody. Thank you.
So,
All right.
So Rick, is your store open?
No, you can,
No?
we're open virtually, so you
Okay.
can email us and telephone us, but we're not open for a while.
Got it.
Thanks.
All right.
Thanks,
Thank
Matt.
you much.
Bye-bye.
Take care. Bye-bye.